The stars above were quiet. The universe stretched on, a vast sea of darkness broken only by the occasional distant spark of light. But hidden within this quiet was a secret that had been buried for 500,000 years, waiting to be discovered. For 500,000 years, humanity had disappeared from the galactic stage, leaving behind only stories and myths. Stories of a powerful race that once ruled the stars. Alien races, ancient and powerful, had long forgotten the human threat. The Zal-Kar, the Gorvath Collective, and the Exhilarating Dominion had all conquered countless worlds and wiped out hundreds of civilizations. They believed the humans were extinct, nothing more than a forgotten memory. The warships of humanity, once the mightiest force in the galaxy, were thought to be lost to time, swept away by the endless march of history. But then, on a remote, long-forgotten planet, a hidden artifact began to stir. It was buried deep under the surface, beneath miles of rock and dust, just waiting for someone, or something, to awaken it. The planet was desolate, a relic of an ancient human colony that had long since been abandoned. The once thriving city was now nothing more than a ruin, its tall spires and shining domes reduced to rubble. Yet beneath all the decay, the artifact pulsed. It was ancient, yes, but it was alive, its mechanisms humming to life as it connected to something far more powerful. It wasn't just an object, it was a key to humanity's greatest secret, a secret that had been hidden away for centuries. Across the galaxy, in the heart of the Zal-Kar Dominion, a fleet of alien ships was engaged in routine patrols. The Zal-Kar were fierce, known for their brutal conquests and unyielding nature. They had wiped out entire civilizations without a second thought. But now, they were starting to feel something different in the air, a strange disturbance that they couldn't quite explain. It was an energy, subtle at first, but growing steadily stronger with each passing day. The Zal-Kar fleet commander, General Zarath, stood at the bridge of his flagship, the Exterminator. His sharp eyes scanned the data coming in from his sensors, but everything seemed normal. Or so it seemed. Deep within the reaches of the galaxy, an ancient signal was sent, one that no one, not even the most advanced alien technology, could ignore. The signal was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but as it grew stronger, it began to ripple through the galaxy, reaching the ears of every major alien power. The Exhilarating Dominion, the Gorvath Collective, even the Krell Order, they all felt it. It wasn't like any other signal they had ever detected before. It was old, ancient, and yet somehow familiar, as if it was calling out to something long forgotten. General Zarath's eyes narrowed as his ship's systems began to react. His fleet's advanced scanners couldn't detect any ships nearby. Yet the signal was undeniable. It was coming from somewhere deep in the galaxy, far beyond where the Zal-Kar had ever ventured. Something had been awakened, something that had been buried for millions of years. "We need to find the source," Zarath commanded, his voice firm. "Prepare the fleet, set course for the coordinates. We'll see what's disturbing the peace." On the far side of the galaxy, near the human colony ruins, the artifact was glowing brighter. The energy it was producing was unlike anything the aliens had encountered. It wasn't just a signal. It was a beacon, calling out to those who would hear it. The artifact's energy reached the deep space observatories of the Exhilarating Dominion. Their scientists were the first to realize the implications. They had seen this kind of signal before, long ago, when humanity was first rising to power. The technology that humanity possessed had been unmatched, a blend of ancient science and cosmic power. And now, it seemed humanity was awakening once again. The Exhilarating's High Council convened in secret. Their top strategists, who had been trained for centuries in the art of conquest, were all unsettled by this new development. They knew better than anyone that humanity's warships had once shattered their fleets in an unpredictable surprise attack. The humans had vanished, yes, but their technology had never been completely destroyed. And now, after 500,000 years, it seemed that the humans were returning, And this time, they would not be so easily defeated. The message was clear. The humans were coming back, and the galaxy would never be the same. Back on the Zalkar flagship, Zarath stared out into the blackness of space, his mind racing. Could this truly be the humans? How had they survived for so long, hidden away in the vastness of the galaxy? What technology could they possess that had been kept secret for so long? Zarath's thoughts were interrupted by an urgent message from his second-in-command. "General, we've located the source of the signal. It's coming from the abandoned planet. We believe it's an ancient human artifact, and it's pulsing with energy. No alien technology can match its signature." Zarath clenched his fists. This was no longer just a mission. It was a warning. The Zalkar Dominion had faced many enemies, but none like this. The humans had been thought extinct, their warships destroyed, their colonies forgotten. But now, it seemed, the humans were preparing to re-enter the galaxy, and no one knew what they were capable of. For Zarath, this discovery was both a challenge and a threat. He had seen many powerful civilizations fall before the might of the Zalkar, but humanity had always been unpredictable, unstoppable, and resourceful. Their return was more than a mere inconvenience. It was a signal that the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift. And it wasn't just the Zalkar who were concerned. The Exhilarating Dominion, the Gorveth Collective, even the Krell Order, they all knew one thing: the humans had returned. The galaxy would soon find out that they were no longer a forgotten race, buried in the dust of time. The hidden power of humanity was waking, and the stars themselves would tremble before its might. As Zarath ordered his fleet to move, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. It wasn't just a battle for territory. It was a battle for the future of the galaxy itself. And humanity was about to make its presence known once again. The vast expanse of space seemed endless, but within its cold depths, something was stirring. As Zarath's fleet moved toward the abandoned planet, the tension within the ranks grew. The Zalkar had faced many threats, but none had ever been this mysterious. For 500,000 years, they had believed humanity was gone, wiped out by time or some cataclysmic event. Yet here they were, facing the impossible, an ancient signal that could only mean one thing: humanity was not extinct. And with their return came the terrifying question of what kind of power they had hidden away all these years. As the fleet approached the coordinates, Zarath couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The usual, familiar hum of his ship felt different, almost as if the very fabric of space itself was vibrating with a strange energy. His eyes flickered to the view screen, where the abandoned planet slowly grew larger, its surface scared and barren. Once a thriving human colony, it was now just a shadow of its former self. The ruins that remained were a testament to the humans' former greatness. But the more Zarath observed, the more he felt a creeping unease. Whatever had caused their downfall, it had left more than just ruins. It had left a legacy, one that was now beginning to stir again. Zarath's second-in-command, Torin, stood beside him, equally alert. He was a veteran, used to facing danger, but even he could not hide the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "General," Torin said, his voice low, "we've been scanning the planet. No signs of life, no active defense systems, but the artifact's energy signature is growing stronger by the minute. It's almost as if it's calling out to something, or someone." Zarath nodded, his jaw tightening. The artifact. It was the key, the heart of humanity's secret, and the source of this new power. If the humans had been able to harness such energy, it meant they had something far more dangerous than the Zalkar had ever anticipated. In all of Zarath's experience, no species had ever hidden such a force and survived. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to have been wiped out, lost in the annals of time. But now it was clear, they were anything but weak. As the fleet descended into the planet's atmosphere, Zarath's eyes remained fixed on the horizon. The surface of the planet was dead, but the energy pulsing from below suggested otherwise. There was something beneath the surface, something that had been waiting for this moment. The ship's systems suddenly blinked, and a low warning tone began to sound. Zarath felt a chill run down his spine. The artifact was no longer just a signal. It was something active, something with purpose. "We're entering the outer atmosphere now," Torin reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "We'll be in orbit in 2 minutes." Zarath nodded. "Prepare landing teams. We'll investigate the source of the signal ourselves. No one else can know what we find here." His voice was firm, the command clear, but even as he said it, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. The humans had always been unpredictable. And if this artifact was anything like the stories told, then it could mean humanity had already mastered powers beyond comprehension. As the fleet's ships began to settle into orbit, Zarath's ship remained at the forefront. The silence in the command room was deafening. The crew could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on them, the realization that they were about to face something no one had expected. On the planet's surface, the ruins of human civilization loomed, their shadows long and dark under the pale light of distant stars. But beneath them, the pulse of the artifact grew stronger, more insistent, like the beating heart of the planet itself. "General," Torin said again, his voice even more tense, "the scanners are picking up strange readings. The artifact's energy, it's not just a signal. It's like it's sensing with our ship. The readings don't make sense." Zarath's heart raced as he moved closer to the console. The artifact, it wasn't just emitting energy. It was actively trying to communicate. And for the first time, Zarath felt the weight of what the humans might have hidden, what they could still have hidden. They had always been known for their ability to adapt, to survive, and to turn the tides of war in their favor. What if all along they had been waiting for this moment? As his ship landed on the planet's surface, a sudden wave of cold swept through the airlock. The crew quickly moved into position, their weapons drawn, ready for whatever they might find. Zarath stood at the front, leading the charge. The ground beneath them was hard and cracked, the remnants of what had once been a thriving city. The walls of ancient human structures loomed overhead, crumbling with age, but still standing strong. And at the center of it all, like a glowing beacon, was the artifact, a massive structure, half buried in the earth, pulsing with a steady rhythmic energy. The closer they got, the stronger the energy became, almost as if the artifact was alive, breathing. Zarath's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped forward, the ground beneath his boots crunching. This was it, the moment the galaxy would change forever. The humans were back, and they were no longer the underdogs. They had something powerful, something that could topple the mightiest of empires. As the group reached the artifact, a sudden flash of light erupted from within, blinding them for a moment. And when the light faded, there was no longer any doubt. The power of the humans was not just real, it was unmatched. The Zalkar had just stumbled upon a force that would reshape the galaxy, and that Exhilarating's dominion and other alien forces would soon learn that humanity had not only returned, but was now ready to reclaim its place in the stars. The galaxy was on the brink of a new age, a human age, and no one was prepared for what that would mean. The crew of the Zalkar fleet stood in uneasy silence as they surveyed the massive artifact. The pulse of energy that radiated from it seemed to thrum through the very air around them, vibrating the bones of every soldier present. General Zarath was still at the front, his gaze fixed on the object before him. It was unlike anything they had encountered. It wasn't just technology. It was alive, in a sense, feeding off the very environment around it, feeding off the ship's energy, the planet's electromagnetic field, and perhaps something deeper, something ancient. Torin stepped forward, his face illuminated by the soft, eerie glow of the artifact. "General, the readings. They're off the charts. We've never seen anything like this before. It's almost like the artifact itself is interacting with our ship's systems." Zarath frowned. This wasn't just a relic. It was a weapon, a tool. And if the humans had harnessed such a thing, They might have disappeared for good reason. There was no telling what it could do. As the Zalkar walked closer, the ground beneath them suddenly shook, the rumble low and ominous, like the growl of some great, unseen beast stirring beneath the surface. "We need to be careful," Zarath muttered. His eyes narrowed. The pulse was becoming more intense now, not just in energy but in sound. It was a strange, almost mechanical hum, a sound that suggested both alien intelligence and some long-forgotten human ingenuity. The artifact seemed to be calling them, but for what purpose? The Zalkar soldiers slowly spread out, weapons raised, scanning every direction. The last thing they wanted was to be ambushed by some hidden human force, or worse, by a deadly defense mechanism built into the artifact itself. Their sensors could detect no movement, yet there was something unsettling about the way the air felt, as if the very atmosphere was alive with anticipation. Torin raised his hand, signaling to the team. "We've got a problem. Our sensors, they're going haywire. There's an interference field surrounding the artifact. I think it's preventing our scanners from picking up any details beyond the surface. We need to find out what's inside," Zarath decided, his voice resolute. They had come all this way. They couldn't leave without knowing the full truth behind the signal. Whatever this was, it was linked to humanity's power, and the Zalkar could not allow that power to fall into anyone else's hands, especially not the humans. With a nod, Zarath gave the order to move forward. As they approached the artifact, the ground began to tremble beneath them once again, this time stronger, as though the planet itself was waking up. Suddenly, without warning, a great burst of light erupted from the artifact. The soldiers shielded their eyes, but the force was blinding. For a few seconds, everything was pure white. Then, just as quickly, the light dissipated, leaving behind an eerie silence. Zarath's heart raced. He knew this wasn't normal. There was something about the energy, the light, that felt almost alive, as if it had been waiting for them to arrive. For a moment, the artifact seemed dormant once again, like a sleeping giant. But then, the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate once more, this time stronger and faster. The artifact shifted. Zarath's eyes widened in disbelief as large metallic plates began to retract, revealing an intricate series of gears, wires, and unknown machinery. It wasn't just an artifact. It was a mechanized structure, and it was awakening, piece by piece. "We'd have to leave," Torin urged, his voice strained. "This thing's not just a signal, it's a weapon. We don't know what it's capable of." But Zarath didn't move. His instincts screamed at him to retreat, but his mind couldn't allow it. The humans had been gone for so long, and now it was clear. They had never truly left. This artifact wasn't just a remnant of their past. It was the future of humanity's power. The humans had somehow, in their isolation, created something far beyond the rest of the galaxy's comprehension. Zarath clenched his fists, his mind working quickly. "Stay on alert. Whatever happens, we must not allow this to fall into the wrong hands." He stepped closer to the artifact, carefully examining the newly revealed mechanisms. Energy conduits crackled with strange, glowing light. The closer he got, the more he realized that the power contained within the artifact wasn't just technological, it was almost mystical, an energy beyond his understanding. Suddenly, there was a low, almost gravelly hum that started to rise from the depths of the structure. Zarath's heart skipped a beat. Then, without warning, a bright beam of energy shot out from the core of the artifact, slamming into the sky above them with a deafening roar. The ground trembled, the shockwaves from the blast shaking the air around them. "Fall back," Zarath shouted, pulling back from the artifact. The soldiers quickly retreated, taking cover behind the surrounding ruins. The artifact, now fully activated, sent out pulse after pulse of energy, each blast more powerful than the last. But then, in the chaos of the moment, Zarath saw something that sent a chill down his spine. The pulse of energy from the artifact wasn't just shooting out into space. It was spreading across the entire planet. It was as if the artifact had connected to something larger, something hidden in the depths of the world itself. For a brief moment, Zarath caught a glimpse of what was happening. The artifact was sensing with something buried deep beneath the surface of the planet. Ancient structures, long forgotten, were awakening. Massive, hidden warships, the likes of which no alien species had ever seen, began to stir. Humanity's fleet was rising. Zarath's blood ran cold. If the humans could control this kind of power, then the galaxy was in for a war unlike any before. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a fight for domination. The humans had always been the wild card in galactic politics, and now it was clear. They were back, and they were far stronger than anyone had ever imagined. Zarath turned to his crew, his voice harsh with realization. Prepare for a full-scale offensive. We have to stop them before they reach full power. We can't let this force rise again. But even as he spoke, he knew. The war was just beginning. The humans had returned, and they had brought with them the unseen power to change everything. You said. The landscape around Zarath was a chaotic mix of dust, rubble, and the thrumming energy of the artifact. His heart pounded in his chest as he stood frozen, watching the impossible unfold before his eyes. The pulse of light that had surged from the artifact had subsided, but the damage it had caused was unmistakable. The very air around them seemed charged with power. Humanity's legacy was no longer a myth. It was alive and kicking, and it had the strength to shape the course of the galaxy. Zarath couldn't shake the image of the hidden warships beneath the planet's surface. He had heard stories, whispers about the human war fleets, how they had once been the terror of the galaxy. But those were just stories, tales told by older generations, long before the Zalkar had risen to power. No one had believed them. No one had thought that humanity could ever return to the galactic stage. Now Zarath realized he had been gravely mistaken. This wasn't just a relic. This was a summoning beacon, a call to arms that had reached the farthest corners of the galaxy, awakening the sleeping warships and activating humanity's most dangerous weapon, their unsurpassed technology. It was clear now. The humans were never truly gone. We need to act fast, Zarath muttered to himself, clenching his fists, before this gets out of hand. But even as he ordered his fleet to prepare for immediate action, his thoughts were clouded with uncertainty. The sheer scale of the threat ahead was beyond anything the Zalkar had ever encountered. Even their most advanced warships paled in comparison to what humanity had clearly kept hidden. What were they capable of now? Back aboard the flagship Exterminator, the Zalkar High Command was already on alert. Their analysts were scrambling to make sense of the readings flooding in from the surface. The energy spikes were so immense that they were starting to interfere with their ship's communication systems. It was as if the planet itself had become a living, breathing entity, responding to the activation of the artifact. We need to send a reconnaissance team to the site, Torrin suggested, his voice grave. If the warships have truly been awakened, it's only a matter of time before they reach full power. The longer we wait, the more dangerous this becomes. Zarath nodded grimly. We don't have time to waste. We'll send our best engineers and fighters. They'll breach the artifact and see if they can disable it. If we wait any longer, we risk giving humanity an advantage we can't afford. But as Zarath issued his orders, the ground beneath them trembled once more, sending a wave of shock through the fleet. The tremor was followed by an explosive surge of energy from the artifact. A massive glowing shape appeared in the sky, slowly coalescing into the silhouette of a massive ship. The air was filled with an overwhelming sense of power, and Zarath's eyes widened in disbelief as the ship emerged fully from the planetary surface. It wasn't just a warship, it was colossal, and it was unmistakably human in design. Zarath couldn't help but stare as the ship's hull gleamed in the light of distant stars. Its surface was covered in complex geometric patterns, impossible to decipher, and it emitted a soft hum that vibrated through his entire body. This was no ordinary ship. It was alive, as if its very construction had been fused with the planet itself. The ship's engines flared to life with a low, rumbling sound, sending a shockwave that rocked the surface of the planet, shaking the entire fleet. "It's awake," Torin whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's really awake." General Zarath swallowed hard. He had seen fleets of warships before, but this was something entirely different. The size, the design, the sheer technological superiority it radiated. It was beyond anything the Zalkar had ever built or encountered. This ship alone could change the fate of the entire galaxy. For a moment, Zarath stood in stunned silence, contemplating the gravity of the situation. He had faced down entire alien fleets and had seen planets fall before his might. But now, humanity's return threatened to undo everything the Zalkar had built. The humans were back, and they were stronger than ever. But as the ship began to ascend, something else caught Zarath's attention. More ships were emerging, hidden beneath the surface of the planet, one after another. Each was massive, each bearing the unmistakable signs of humanity's advanced technology. There were no signs of life on board, no visible crew, but the ships seemed to have a will of their own. They moved with the precision and purpose of a race that had been waiting, planning, and preparing for centuries. The warships were awakening, and there was nothing the Zalkar could do to stop it. "We need to contact the other fleets," Zarath ordered, his voice sharp. "Tell them that humanity's fleet is operational. This isn't just a matter of one ship. This is a full-scale invasion in the making." As he spoke, his mind raced. The galaxy had been in a fragile peace for so long, but now it was all about to change. Humanity's sudden return wasn't just a disruption. It was an existential threat to every other empire in the galaxy, and the Zalkar had just walked straight into the heart of that threat. "Prepare to engage," Zarath ordered. "We'll launch a full offensive. Take out the artifact and the ships before they can launch any further. If we don't, we risk the entire galaxy falling into their hands." But deep down, Zarath knew that this wasn't going to be an easy battle. Humanity's warships were like nothing he had ever seen, and if their technology had been waiting 500,000 years to be unleashed, there was no telling how far their capabilities had evolved. This was no longer about conquering worlds. It was about survival. And the Zalkar had underestimated humanity's return. Now, they would have to face the full power of a race that had been sleeping for millennia. And in that moment, Zarath realized that no one, not the Zalkar, the Exhirax, or any other empire, could stop what was coming. Humanity had come back to the stars, and they weren't just back to reclaim their place. They were back to reshape the galaxy in their image. The sun was setting on the barren world below, casting a long blood-red shadow over the stillness of the battlefield. The Zalkar fleet had deployed every available ship, every soldier, in an attempt to hold back the inevitable. The artifacts and the warships were no longer just a potential threat. They were a living nightmare, a terrifying reminder of humanity's lost power. Zarath stood at the helm of his flagship, watching the scene unfold before him on the holoscreens. His crew was tense, eyes glued to their stations, fully aware that the fate of the galaxy rested on their next move. Despite his confident exterior, Zarath's mind raced. His species had conquered countless planets, obliterated entire civilizations, and crushed rebellions with ease. Yet humanity's return had thrown everything into chaos. These humans, who had once seemed so primitive, so insignificant, were now capable of reshaping the galaxy in a way that no one had ever imagined. They had hidden away for centuries, and now their return wasn't just a challenge. It was a catastrophe waiting to happen. "General," Torin's voice crackled through the comms, breaking Zarath's focus. "We've got a problem. The warships, they've begun to launch." Zarath's eyes narrowed. The warships had been dormant for so long, buried beneath layers of the planet's surface. But now, In response to the activation of the artifact, they were awakening. The ships, silent and deadly, emerged from the surface like massive beasts roused from their slumber. Some were still in the process of ascending from the underground docking bays, while others were already breaking through the atmosphere. Their sheer size was staggering. Each warship was far larger than any Zal-Kar vessel, its design sleek and advanced, carrying the unmistakable stamp of human ingenuity. The first few ships had already entered orbit, their engines roaring to life, thrumming with an energy that made the very air shiver. Zarath watched helplessly as one of the ships fired a beacon of pure energy into the void, broadcasting a signal that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The hum of their hyperdrives was a constant reminder that humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. Zarath clenched his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. Contact the other fleets. Tell them to hold position until we have a clear tactical plan. No one engages unless I give the order. Torin's voice was grim when it came through. It's too late for that, General. The other ships are already on the move. The warships are systematically taking control of the planets around us. Zarath's mind raced. Humanity wasn't just back. They had come prepared, with a fleet so vast, so powerful, that the Zal-Kar were already being pushed to their limits. The Zal-Kar were formidable, but even they weren't ready for a threat of this magnitude. This was not a typical invasion. Zarath's thoughts turned to the artifact once again, the source of all this chaos. It was clear now that it was not just a relic. It was the key to a powerful network, a means by which humanity's ancient fleet was able to mobilize so quickly. If Zarath had underestimated anything, it was the ingenuity of humanity. General, we've got a signal, one of the crew members announced, her voice sharp with surprise. Zarath turned, his eyes flashing with concern. From where? It's coming from the artifact, she replied. A direct transmission from human command. For a moment, Zarath felt his blood run cold. A communication from humanity. No one had expected this. A moment later, a projection appeared in the center of the room, flickering to life. The image was unclear at first, but soon it coalesced into the figure of a human, dressed in what appeared to be an advanced military uniform. He looked calm, composed, almost too calm for the situation. His eyes locked onto Zarath's, and for the briefest of moments, Zarath could sense something chilling in his gaze. I am Admiral Ethan McAllister, commanding the human fleet of the stars. General Zarath of the Zal-Kar. I trust your fleet is ready for what's to come. Zarath's stomach churned. The arrogance, the ease with which the humans spoke. It was like the years of their absence had never happened. He could hear the humiliation in McAllister's voice, and it made his blood boil. For centuries, the Zal-Kar had ruled with an iron fist, subjugating and annihilating any species that dared challenge them. And now, a human admiral, an individual, was daring to speak to him as if the fate of the galaxy was already in the hands of his people. We will not submit to your invasion, Zarath growled, his voice low and dangerous. You are outnumbered, outclassed, and your fleets are still inferior to ours. McAllister's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. That may have been true once, General. But now we have something you don't. We have time, preparation, and most importantly, we have the future on our side. You underestimate us, and that will be your downfall. Zarath clenched his fists. This human, this admiral, his confidence was infuriating. But deep inside, Zarath knew the truth. The Zal-Kar were facing a force unlike any they had ever encountered. These humans had changed the rules of warfare, and no one, not even the mighty Zal-Kar, could possibly stop them. Before Zarath could respond, the transmission cut off, leaving him staring at the empty projection. He turned back to his crew, who were all waiting for his command. He saw the same doubt, the same fear in their eyes. He knew they were all thinking the same thing. This wasn't just a war. This was the beginning of the end. Prepare for impact, Zarath said, his voice tinged with both fury and a deep, cold fear. "We engage in full force. We will not let the humans reclaim what they have lost." But as the Zalkar fleet began to move into position, Zarath couldn't help but feel a gnawing sense of dread. He had once been the one to lead empires into battle, to crush those who would oppose them. But this was something else. Humanity had returned, and they weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting for their place at the top. The galaxy was no longer a battlefield for empires. It was now a game of survival, and humanity was prepared to win. As the first shots of the battle rang out across the stars, Zarath could feel it in his bones. This war would not be easy. And the Zalkar had no idea what kind of fury they had just awakened. The battle had begun, but it felt more like the unraveling of the galaxy than a mere conflict between two species. The Zalkar fleet had mobilized quickly, their warships moving into position around the surface of the planet, prepared for the fight of their lives. Yet, as the first shots were fired, it became immediately apparent that humanity's return was not just a threat to their physical dominance. It was an existential challenge to everything the Zalkar had ever known. The humans didn't just fight to win. They fought with a purpose, a resolve that was born from something older, something far beyond what the Zalkar had ever imagined. Zarath's flagship, the Exterminator, was on the front lines, its weapon systems blazing as the fleet launched its first full offensive. A wall of energy beams, missiles, and plasma cannons shot out from their ships, flooding the sky with destruction. But to his dismay, the human warships didn't retreat. They didn't scatter in fear, as any sane species would have done. They stood their ground, their massive hulls glowing as though charged with an unstoppable power. The sheer size and strength of the ships alone were enough to make even the most seasoned soldier hesitate. Zarath's fingers gripped the command console tightly. "Increase firepower," he ordered, his voice strained. "We must break their formation before they activate their full defense system." Yet, as the Zalkar fired upon the enemy, something strange happened. The energy blasts that struck the human warships didn't cause the expected damage. Instead, they bounced off like they had struck some impenetrable wall. The humans had somehow adapted, turning their technology into something that defied reason. Zarath's heart sank as he realized the truth. These ships were untouchable. The Zalkar's weapon systems, once the most advanced in the galaxy, were completely ineffective. As the human warships advanced, they began firing back in synchronized waves. Pulse beams, each one more powerful than anything the Zalkar had ever encountered, erupted from their ships, lighting up the void of space. Zarath's ship rocked violently as a direct hit slammed into the Exterminator. He barely managed to keep his feet, the sheer force of the blast making the entire command deck tremble. His soldiers screamed as the shields faltered under the attack. "Shields down to 45%, cried one of the crew members. Zarath gritted his teeth, barely containing his rage. "Return fire. We can't let them breach our defenses." But just as he ordered another strike, something unexpected happened. One of the human warships, a massive behemoth, split in half before their eyes. There was no explosion, no sudden burst of flame, just a sharp, splitting sound as though the ship had been torn apart by some unseen force. And then, the two halves of the ship regenerated, merging back together in a matter of seconds, as though the ship itself was alive, healing at an unnatural speed. Zarath's eyes widened in disbelief. This wasn't just technology. It was biotechnology, something beyond anything the Zalkar could comprehend. The humans had evolved beyond their primitive methods, fusing their technology with living systems, creating a form of warfare that was organic and unstoppable. "General, look," Torin shouted, his voice tinged with awe and fear. Zarath turned to the monitor. Across the battlefield, dozens of smaller human ships were being deployed, moving in perfect harmony with their larger counterparts. These ships weren't just fighting. They were communicating, their movements synchronizing in a way that made it seem as though the fleet itself was a single sentient being. It was as if the humans weren't just battling with weapons, but with intelligence that transcended mere tactics. "They are coordinated," Zarath muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "They can think as one. This isn't just a fleet, it's a mind, a collective consciousness." How? How did they achieve this? The answer came as the human fleet unleashed another devastating wave of energy blasts. The Zalkar shields flickered and then failed entirely as the barrage hit. The exterminator was struck again, this time causing a breach in its hull. Systems began to short-circuit, and a sharp alarm echoed through the deck. "We can't hold them off much longer, General," one of the officers cried. "They're tearing through our ships like paper." Zarath looked at the damage, his mind working at an incredible pace. How had the humans done this? How had they gone from a nearly extinct species to commanding such immense power in just a few hundred years? It wasn't just their technology. It was something else, something deeper. His mind flashed back to the artifact, buried beneath the surface of the planet, pulsing with energy. It was linked to this technology, this awakening of humanity's lost power. The artifact wasn't just a relic. It was the key to humanity's strength, a gateway to a power that could reshape the galaxy in ways no one could have foreseen. Suddenly, a voice broke through Zarath's thoughts. "General, there's something else. A new ship. It's enormous. It's coming from the artifact. It's..." The officer's words cut off as the new ship emerged from the atmosphere, larger than anything Zarath had ever seen. It was immense, more massive than any Zalkar ship, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change. But what struck Zarath was its energy signature. It was like nothing he had encountered. There was no conventional power source. No engines, no shields, just pure, unrestrained energy. The ship hovered above the battlefield for a moment before dividing into several smaller ships, each one launching a pulse of energy that spread across the entire Zalkar fleet. Within seconds, the fleet was disabled, their systems locked down, their weapons useless. Zarath's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. The humans had won. They had mastered not just their technology, but the very forces of the galaxy itself. Their power was limitless, and there was nothing the Zalkar could do to stop them. He had miscalculated. And now, as the Zalkar fleet was decimated, as the ships around him fell one by one, Zarath had no choice but to issue a retreat. But deep down, he knew that the Zalkar's days of dominance were over. Humanity had returned, and they weren't just here to conquer. They were here to rule. The war for the galaxy was just beginning, and the Zalkar had already lost.